You may recall when I first got this white 95 Crown Victoria running it on the road that I had a ABS warning light that was staying on persistently. And I got to thinking about it and realizing that this car has now been on the road for quite some time. I mean, the inspection sticker is March 2012, so that gives you some rough idea of how long it's been since it's been on the road. I got to thinking, well, maybe I should go back to first principles and exercise the ABS hydraulic unit a little bit just to see what happens, just to make that system work a little bit. And what I did was I found an old gravel road / parking lot, and I deliberately jammed on the brakes as hard as I could, or hard enough to cause the ABS to try to engage. And at the time, ABS was not working. The car was actually just locking up the wheels like an older car would do, and the ABS light was on. But I went to drive it again earlier, and it looks like since the power cycle occurred, since I last drove it in that gravel parking lot and today, the problem is actually gone. So I'm going to go ahead and not start the car, but just turn it on to full on. And we'll see if that ABS light turns on for a few seconds and then goes off. And sure enough, it did. Of course, all the other lights are going to stay on until the engine runs, but looks like the problem may actually be or have been related to hydraulic fluid. Probably has air in the system. The brakes have probably never been bled. I'm going to go ahead and cycle power one more time. And that light right there just goes on for a few seconds and turns off. If I were to start the engine and try to drive the car, as soon as I think I hit around 10 or 15 miles an hour, the ABS pump will energize just a little bit for the system self-test. So I feel pretty good about that. I think I mentioned in the last video when I was actually driving it that it may have been related to hydraulic fluid or an ABS wheel sensor or something like that, but I think what happened here is it proves that it's related to the hydraulic fluid. And what I'm going to end up doing anyway is swapping out the rear axle from the wrecked car over to the white car, and that's going to require disconnecting the brake calipers, of course. And I also want to use the front brake calipers off the red car onto the white car too. So I do have to bleed the entire system when I do that. And what that's going to do is it's going to force all new fluid all throughout the reservoir, the master cylinder, all the way down the lines, and of course through this expensive ABS hydraulic unit. The fluid in the other car has probably never been bled, and over time that fluid may have run back down due to gravity. There might be some air in the system, and that was probably triggering my ABS light. So I think that a good brake bleed is going to be what cures that problem once and for all. But that's not actually the point of this video. What I want to do today is start working toward the back of the car, try to do some more of the lighter work versus the heavy-duty work. And I want to go ahead and change out the trunk mat and weather stripping and possibly the tail light assembly from the wrecked car over to the white car. The wrecked car has a nice original unused full-size spare tire from 1995, and the trunk matting is in much better shape. And if you come back over here, look on this trunk, it's dirty, it's had oil spills. I took out the tire, but it had a donut for a spare. The carpeting is all falling down. Weather stripping here is all messed up from being caught on whatever they were lifting over. The deck lid here is all torn. The sun has gotten to it too, so it's caused it to expand and contract and dry up. So you have a huge gap here. So I just want to go ahead and replace all that. And I also want to see how good these tail lights are going to shine up. what I want to do actually is see if I can wash this car today. The car is pretty nasty looking. Just, I think it was parked under a tree. I got a whole bunch of leaves and things like that out from under here. And that's a good way that cars get a lot of rust, is leaves and dirt build up back in here and collect moisture and just cause a rust concern. I want to see if I can keep that clean. But you can see the car is just incredibly dirty. So my secret weapon is actually going to be a bucket of hot water, hot soapy water versus regular water. And I want to try for a minute just to see what kind of results I get. Just going to wet the car down a little bit. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. It's actually coming off pretty good. I'm going to try to wash that off a little bit, see what the get rid of some of the soap and see what it looks like. And that's not too shabby. Here's what it looked like before, and there's what it looks like now. I think this car has got a lot of potential. I mean, the interior, you can tell the difference between what I've washed and haven't washed. The interior is in pretty bad shape, but hopefully I can find another car that I can just swap interiors with. But I think what I got going for me here is that the paint is not metallic. If it were metallic, it would tend to peel on the horizontal surfaces, the trunks and the roof and the hood there. I think having a white car actually was the saving grace. I think this thing is going to shine up pretty nicely, and ultimately, or hopefully, end up being a good car. I'm going to go ahead and keep washing and show you guys the result later. Well, now that I'm done washing the car, the difference is just between night and day. Doesn't even look like the same car. Paint really looks good, nice and shiny. One of the good things about this car is it doesn't have any rust anywhere. It's got a few dings and scratches, but doesn't have any cancer anywhere, so it's going to last an awfully long time, hopefully. All that dirt and everything washed off really good. I got a couple of areas of tree sap to get rid of, like right here, that I didn't even notice because the car was so dirty. Back of this bumper was all green and nasty with mold and everything else. That all looks really good now. And this is just really a preliminary wash. This is just to kind of get a baseline of where things are at, but the car is turning out to be a pretty nice looking car. Got one dent here in the driver's door, small dent there, or not driver's door, rear passenger door. But so far so good. I did manage to get all up in here in the wheel wells, clean all up under here. Still need to work on the molding. That's a little bit harder to clean because it's somewhat more rough than the paint of the car. Some of the other molding cleaned up really good. But the car looked like it was in much worse shape than it really was. And this car was actually in somewhat of a junkyard. The guy I bought it from had about 10 or 15 cars sitting around, and this was one of them. And this car was kind of sandwiched in between a whole bunch of other cars, just kind of parked cattywampus and under a bunch of trees and stuff, just getting neglected. But I think once I wash this thing one more time in the future and put a nice coat of wax on here, it's going to really look sharp. Got a dent here in the hood, right there. Not sure how hard that's going to be to get out. But a couple of dents here and there on an 18-year-old car is really not much to worry about. I'm going to, especially when you got a 13,000 mile drivetrain in here. I do have to go ahead and swap rear axles here at some point. But before I do that, I'm going to try to get this thing inspected. And before I get it inspected, I'm going to have to replace the upper and lower ball joints, which is a pretty major job. Not so much the upper ones, but the lower ones is going to be a major job. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can change out the trunk mats and the weather stripping. Now I got the trunk matting removed and the weather stripping removed as well too. It's interesting some of the things you find out with a car that you get when you start tearing into it this much. One of the things I noticed is that this water drain plug has come loose from where it belongs, so I'm going to put that back in. Not sure how long it's been like that. There doesn't appear to be any evidence of any kind of damage or previous accident damage where this thing might have gotten hit in the rear, which is good. And for you guys that don't know, and you can access this with the trunk matting installed, it's just easier to see when it's not installed. What you have over there is the fuel inertia cutoff switch. So if this car were involved in a collision, just like the brown car was, what's going to happen is that this little red switch here is going to pop up and shut fuel off to the engine for safety. And indeed, when I had the accident, the engine wouldn't start. I had to come back here and push that back in, and the engine fired right up. So that pretty much only happens in a major collision where the impact force is significant. And then of course over here you've got your scissors jack. Nothing unusual there. Hidden back here, however, is what looks to be an ODB1 connector, even though this is an OBD2 car. And I don't have the service manual handy, but I think this is the connector to diagnose the ABS brake system. Not certain about that, but fairly certain. And that's just tucked away behind the trunk matting. And another little treasure I found hidden back here. Probably has never been taken out in 18 years. You can see the dust on here. It looks to be the original documentation with the car. It's going to be really interesting to get into this and see what's in here. There's probably nothing specific to where it was purchased or anything, but it's probably just a typical owner's manual and things like that. So I'll go ahead and set that aside. I'm not going to put that back in there because there's just no point in having it in there. It's better to have it outside where you can get to it. That's a really nice little find. I didn't know they stuck them back there. They usually stick them in the glove box. The customer never would have found it back in there because this is not an area of the trunk mat that's easily moved away like it is over here to get to the jack. And the trunk mat is fairly easy to get out. You've got two nylon fasteners over here, and you've got several on that side. They're all lying down over here. I hate these nylon fasteners. They're easy to get in and very difficult to get out because there's nothing to grab onto. But they're fairly cheap and easy to replace, so I can go ahead and reuse these. Then of course you have to pop off the molding first where the trunk latch is. This is all kind of beat up. I'm going to go ahead and replace that with the molding from the wrecked car. But before I do any of that, I'm going to go ahead and get in here with a vacuum and a brush and just clean all this debris out of here. put the plug back in and wipe it all down, and then take the mat out of that car and put it in this one. Okay, you can kind of see how this works. I've got the main trunk mat out. It comes in two pieces, so you get the part of the mat out that goes all the way to the end first, and then this mat over here where the spare tire goes and covers the wheel wells, that just slides out. There's nothing holding it in but the trunk mat that goes in here first. And it's kind of interesting. This is the original full-size spare that's 18 years old from 1995. It's the same tires that are on the car, the Michelin XGT4. And that's what it looks like. This rim has never been mounted before. And it has these little stickers on here as well too. I just thought that was kind of neat. You can still see the newness on the rubber. This tire has never touched the ground. And even now it's not touched the ground, it's just sitting on the steps. So I'm going to go ahead and do away with the donut, which I hate for spare tires. I'm not sure what I'll do with that. And I'll go on in with this full-size spare, which is the way I think that a spare tire should be. That way you can keep on driving and maintain speed limits and till you get your tire fixed. So next is to pull this mat out and transfer it into this car. All done. Got the trunk mat installed and everything, as well as the weather seal and the new, or not new, but the other skid plate, which is in much better shape. It does have a little bit of marring right here, but still in much better shape than the one that came with the car. And all those tears and things that were in the other weather seal are history. This is a nice new weather seal. And there's where the split was. That's all still retained and glued together like it should be. It's normal to have a little bit of a split there. This thing just kind of loops around like that, but I wanted to get it installed in exactly the same place it was on the other car, and the split was right around in this area here. And there's your fuel inertia cutoff switch. You can access it right through here. And I got the full-size spare installed now, and I added some air to it as well. So this car is looking better and better. I've got the front part all done and the instrument panel all done and the back part all done. Now if I can just do something with this nasty interior. I mean, it's like they lived in here or something, I don't know. You got tears in the front seat by some kind of animal probably. And then if you look under here on the floor mats, it's just really dirty, just disgusting. So definitely needs new carpet if nothing else, but I really would like to get the whole interior replaced from another Crown Vic, which wouldn't really be all that hard to do. I could hopefully be able to find one with the matching interior. The gray interior, the white and the gray kind of go nice together. But next is to try to source some clips for the lower rocker molding. I'm missing one right there. They're just really brittle and easy to come off, and that way I can put the rocker moldings on. It was kind of nice that I had them off like that, because that gave me a chance to clean under there real good. And next I'll be able to tackle the upper and lower ball joint. But this thing shined up really nice, and it hasn't even been waxed yet. For the first time I can see the reflection in the paint. So hopefully this is going to turn out to be a pretty nice car. I mean, in a lot of ways the body of this car is in better condition than this body is. It doesn't have nearly the amount of old man dents that this car had. Even though this car was, garage kept all its life and driven by an old man, it still had significant body damage. In fact, I'm focusing in on some damage right here. Nice little old man dent there. It's just little stuff like that. Now this car does have a few dents, like in this rear passenger door. But overall, the dents are pretty insignificant, especially when you consider that the car is 18 years old. So this project is coming right along. Pretty soon I'll be able to get this thing inspected and start using it as a daily driver for once.